Hey, what's up, YouTube fam? It's your favorite black guy from Nebraska. Yes, there's black people here in Nebraska. Okay, so today's content is more of what I'm presenting to you. There's some more information, or actually more evidence as to the black races of Europe. So we're going to read out of a book called Ancient and Modern Britons. All the information I'm about to give you is out of that book, Ancient and Modern Britons, by David McRitchie, wonderful gentleman who is in search for the truth, no matter what he finds. And this is going to be one of those videos where if you don't agree with it, then hey man, don't get mad at me. Get mad at the sources or get mad at Mr. McRitchie. All right, so it's your favorite black guy from Nebraska. Let's go ahead and get started. It's called Dubh, aka Niger, and Clan Macduff, sons of black Earls of Fife. It has been seen that the topography of Britain and many other witnesses in our speech all testify to the presence of a black race not yet blended with the white. Professor Huxley, speaking on the subject, says that probably in time of Caesar, and certainly in that of Tacitus, there existed in those islands two distinct types of population. The one of a tall stature with fair skin, yellow hair, and blue eyes, the other of short stature with dark skin, as dark as an Ethiopian's, says Pliny, as dark as a Moor's, says Claudian, dark hair and black eyes. In most of the examples cited, or whatever nature, the two great types appear as enemies, which was their natural attitude, which still carries on till today. And a great number of the legendary instances preserve the memory of thus mutual enmity. The black giants of the Welsh and other tales are hateful and horrid. The Walsh black oppressor and Black Knight of Lancashire are fierce tyrants, the cruel foes of all white people. Now, if you go to my post, you'll see, in my community post about the black oppressors. It's in there. Check that out. At a later date, when the whites were gaining the ascendancy and the blacks were cut up into straggling bands or lurking like the Black Morrow of Galloway in solitary dens and forced shades out of which they issued by night, intent on murder and rapine, even at this state of their history, the blacks were the dreaded enemies of the whites. Indeed, it is of this epoch that the popular imagination has most retained the impression. The days of the black oppression are so remote that their memory only lives in half-rotted legends. Not so the time when the black castles were owned by another race, and their former masters were skulking among woods and caves. So vivid was the fear of them, and so lasting its impression, that children of the 19th century peering into dark recesses, timorously, or peasant girls seeing suddenly their own image reflected by the candle from the dark window pane, shiver all over with apprehension at the vision of the dreaded black man, a mere imaginary bugbear to them, but a real terror to those from whom they inherited the feeling. Fionn white and Dubh black did not always war against each other. Occasionally, they united in friendlier mood, and the result was Don Brown or Rudd tawny. And other evidences of history, of legend, and of custom have been adduced. For example, we see one of the black people, the Moors and the Romans, in the person of a being of Alban of the 10th century. History knows him sometimes as Kenneth, sometimes as Dubh, sometimes as Niger. The version of the Pictish Chronicle in the Irish Neonist calls him Synodville Dubh, and St. Bertrand styles him Dubh of the three black divisions. So there were three black divisions. Interesting. The Picts seem to have preserved the tradition that the whole nation was once divided into 7 provinces, and it will appear that the three black divisions over which Dubh, or the black, held sway formed that portion of the original 7 which still remained untouched by the white races. In short, the Pictish provinces. He seems to have been constantly at war with the Celine, or the Sanalus, the young dog who is called Fionn, or white, by St. Bertrand, and eventually white succeeded in driving black out of the country and reigning in his stead for more than 20 years after. Scotland was overrun in one district by Moors of the 15th century, but 5 centuries earlier the kings of Alban were Moors, and one of the most celebrated of these, Kenneth or Niger or Dubh, ruled over certain districts known as the three black divisions. We have guessed the one division of this posterity of the powerful black king of the 10th century became known to Gaelic-speaking people as Macduff, shortened under Macduff or the Clan of Black, which race was for a long time paramount in the kingdom of Fife itself, and probably one of the three black divisions. Macduff is certainly a common enough Gaelic name, Macduff, son of the black man. Source: Peter Beresford Ellis, Macbeth, the King of Scotland. As Niger and Rufus were names of families among the Romans, from the color and complexion of men, so it seems Duff was from the swarthy and black color of those of the tribe or clan of Macduff. Source: James McVeigh, Dalmac, 1889. Robert Sibbald, The History, Ancient and Modern of the Sheridans of Fife and Kinross, with the description of both and of the fifths of Forth and Tay and the islands in them, with an account of the natural products of the land and water, 1710. From him, Dubh, it may be assumed, those Mormors of Fife came to the bear, the name of Macduff also were ascended. That any rate do not appear in history until shortly after the death of Dubh, and as there does not seem to have had any other Dubh or black distinguished by the epithet at that time. And as for the Macduffs come on to the stage as men of high rank, it is reasonable to assume that the black whose sons they were was the celebrated Kenneth or Niger of the 10th century. Sibbald, in his History of Fife, says that as Niger and Rufus were names of families among the Romans, from the color and complexion of men, so it seems Duff was the swarthy and black color of those of the tribe or clan of Macduff. Thus, in this swarthy tribe, were we may detect the originals of these Fifeshire gypsies, whose ancestral habits were plundering and Morris dancing, as well as the equally ancient practice of polygamy. The Earl of Fife, or Marmor of Fife, was the ruler of the province of Fife in medieval Scotland, which encompassed the modern counties of Fife and Kinross. Due to their royal ancestry, the Earls of Fife were the highest-ranking nobles in the realm and had the right to crown the King of Scots. Held by the Macduff family, the Normors of Fife, by the 12th century, had established themselves as the highest-ranking native nobles in Scotland. Color and identity in historical descriptions. Historically, people did not commonly use hair color as a primary identifier for different groups of races. Instead, distinctions were typically made based on broader physical traits like skin complexion. Besides the general terms of Gentiles, that of Gal, the Irish word for stranger was likewise applied to them, and two nations were distinguished as Finnegal, white Gals, and Dubh Gael, black Gals, the former being Norwegians and the latter Danes. The typical Dane of today is not a black-haired man, quite the reverse, and Dubh means black without any word of hair. These two sections of invaders were also known as Finn Genti, and Dubh Genti, white Gentiles and black Gentiles, and as Fionn Lachlannic and Dubh Lachlannic, white and black Lachlaners or Scandinavians. And in the wars of the Geedhill and the Gael, the Danari are styled black Daners or black Danes. In none of these terms is there any hint that color of the hair is indicated, but the expression used by Saint Bertrand in speaking of the Norwegian leaves no room for doubt. He calls them the Gentiles of pure color. The Danes then were not of pure color. They were Dubh or black. There can be no question about it. The designation given by the common people of one race to another is most invariably founded upon some physical feature, and the most natural distinction is that of color, where the races differ in complexion. The invading whites styled the Indians of America redskins, and these again called their conquerors pale faces. A native Australian is a blackfellow to the modern Briton. Other blacks are roughly spoken of either under that title or under its other form as Negroes. Therefore, when the white races of Britain styled the Danes black heathen, they simply made use of the most natural term that could occur to them. William Forbes' scheme includes the terms Ban and Finn, white, Cr and Dubh, black, Dirk and Rudd, red, Lyeth gray, glass green also gray, gorm blue, breck or brit speckled. Among the names of primary colors which enter into the comparison both of names, persons, and places. To these may be added dun, brown, which words indeed no other than dun and tawny, and also bead, yellow. Of these terms, it has been shown that green and blue, so often interchangeable with black and brown, relate to the wide-stained, dark-skinned races. It is obviously absurd to suppose that the distinguished anonyms, green, blue, and speckled, have to do with hair. Why, then, should the other? One knows Gaelic intimately, both as a spoken and as a written language, translates rud or red as tawny. It is not so very long ago that an American meant a red Indian or a red man. Did Native Americans or Indians have red hair or red tawny skin? In regards to glass, meaning green, green and blue so often interchangeable with black and brown, related to the woad-stained, dark-skinned races. Dian, Dubh, a black man, and Duin, Gorm, a woad-stained man, are interchangeable terms. Glass and gorm, or gorm, used in Scotland and Wales, signifies in one place green or blue, and the other brown or swarthy. The explanation in all these cases being that the swarthy people were gorm, or woad-colored. The Romans styled against certain ancient Britons ceruli and verdes indifferently. Verdes, or green men, sometimes ceruli, or blueskins. The color of the people whom Caesar styled green men and blueskins is described by Pliny as Ethiopian, as blackamoors. The same parallel is seen in the Gaelic names for a blackamoor, what is Duin Dubh, a black man, in one part of the country is Dungorm, a blue-green man, in another. Those Britons whom Pliny characterized as Ethiops, blue men, were styled Cerulu, blueskins, by Caesar. A description of the western islands of Scotland. The legends and the history of the Scottish Highlands are both witness to the existence of purely black people. The complexion of the islanders of the Isle of Skye. The inhabitants of this isle are generally well proportioned, and their complexion is for the most part black. The complexions of the islanders of the Isle of Arran. The inhabitants of this isle are well proportioned, generally brown, and some of a black complexion. They enjoy a good state of health and have a genius for all callings of employments. The complexion of the islanders of the Isle of Jura. The natives here are very well proportioned, being generally black of complexion and free from bodily imperfections. They speak the Irish language. The complexion of the islanders of the Isle of Colonsay. The inhabitants are generally well proportioned in a black complexion. They speak only the Irish tongue. Black people speaking Irish. When Martin described the western islands of Scotland, 1695, he remarked that the complexion of the natives of Skye was for the most part black. Of the natives of Jura, he said that they were generally brown and some of a black complexion. The inhabitants of the Isle Gige presented a greater mixture. They were fair or brown in complexion. And Pennant, speaking of the Isle people, described them as lean, withered, dusky, and smoke-dried. In their memorable tour through the north and west of Scotland, Johnson and Boswell several times took notice of the swarthy color of some of the natives. It will be remembered that Boswell said of the mixed race of the McRaes, there was great diversity in the faces of the circle around us. Some were as black and wild in their appearance as any American savages. And although the black heathen were expelled from these islands many centuries ago, and although as a distinct race they have almost vanished from Europe. Now, the source to all that information is David McRitchie, Ancient and Modern Britons, Volume 1, 1884. The people of Scotland prior to the Highland clearances were predominantly so-called black. The Highland clearances were the were the evictions. Okay, so this is what happened to these black Gentiles, with these black races, these black people. The Highland clearances is called a Highland clearance, were the evictions of a significant number of tenants in the Scottish Highlands and Islands, mostly from 750 to 1860. And those dates are peculiar because all around Europe, those are the times when people were being deported, black people were being deported from these lands and sent to other dark lands. So I hope you guys really enjoyed that. I know it wasn't the easiest listen, but I'm going to post information in the comments section so that you can refer to it. All right. So it's your favorite black guy from Nebraska. Please like, share, and subscribe. I'm out. Peace.